he actually started off by using live bark beetles with his concoction. So we went out and gathered some bark beetles.
Yeah, we've been here for a little bit already.
Because we have plenty of them.
I was going to say, if you needed some, I would.
45 trees on my place. Yes.
Yeah. We lost about 80% of our trees and we're up in Pinedale. Oh gosh, yeah.
Are you guys all local here?
Well, Pinedale.
Pinedale. Gotcha. Okay, so I've been dealing with them over in Pine Top and Lakeside a lot. Okay, does everybody have a handout?
Do you need help?
No, I think I'm done. You only need one big pan of water, right?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Or do you want me to fill this up and put it out there?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to start by talking about the root cause. Why do we have bark beetles, right? Bark beetles cannot attack a healthy tree. They can't digest it. If they take a bite of a healthy tree, they'll die if they take a second bite. They get all congested, backed up, and they can't. So, now, relative to how healthy does a tree have to be, right? All plants have a measure of sugar and minerals within their sap and their interstitial fluids, and it's referred to as Brix. That's a measure of the total dissolved solids. Most of it's sugar, some of it's minerals. Minerals always travel with the sugar. When your plant gets low in minerals or sugar or excess water or drought, those four things will immediately cause a decrease in Brix. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm just not in front of the camera. Okay, so tons of studies have been done on all insects, all different types of insects. If you guys want to dig into that, there's a guy called Dr. Thomas Dykstra, D-Y-K-S-T-R-A. If you look him up on YouTube, he's way better at me than explaining this, and he studied it for 20 years. There's pinpoint numbers of Brix that every type of insect will feed and stop feeding. Your aphids and your lower level things like aphids, scale, stuff like that, those feed on really unhealthy plants. They feed on Brix of 2 and 3 and 4. If you see those on your plants, you have big problems. Those bugs are the least of your problems. Especially if they're on your crops, you're not producing food if your Brix are that low. Insects don't eat food that's meant for us. Nature works in a very specific way, and insects stop eating before it's even food for us. You guys are aware that most of the stuff you get at the grocery store, you bring it home, it lasts 2 days, if that, and then it's slimy and it's decomposing. And that's not what's supposed to happen, but when you have low Brix, the sugar and the minerals, they don't keep all those cells together, and those cells die after it's picked. You know, if fruit's fresh, you're eating living cells in that fruit when you eat it. And then that water's structured, and you have tons of minerals and all the nutrition you need. Insects cannot process those things. Their gut we have a multifaceted gut. We can process all that stuff. That's what it takes for us to get our nutrition. Insects are not that way. Most of them have 1 or 2 parts to their gut. And as soon as the sugar gets over a certain level, they crystallize. They turn into a piece of crystallized sugar. No joke. You've probably seen that with aphids at times. So with trees, it's the same thing. Trees also have a Brix. It's a little harder to read in trees, but you can watch the insects that are attacking the trees and know exactly where it's at, because every insect will attack within a specific what's the word I'm looking for? Within a specific range of 2 to 3 Brix, and outside of that, below it, doesn't have the minerals they need and the nutrition. Above that, they can't digest it. Trees are the same, and beetles, all beetles, and bark beetles in particular, cannot digest anything over a Brix of 11. That's still not truly considered a healthy plant. True plant health starts at about 14 and goes up from there. So if your plant's even mediocre healthy, between 12 and 14, they're not going to touch it. They can't digest it. So what has caused all of this especially so much recently. In the last 3 years, it's been really, really dramatic, and there's pinpoint markers to it. Who has some input on that? Because I'm sure you guys are all aware of some of the things that are causing these trees to lose their health, to invite that bark beetle in.
Drought, like snow.
Yeah.
Drought is a huge one. Drought's a huge one. Okay. Another thing is the type of soil we have. It looks like this is more silt than clay, but I haven't stuck a shovel in it. Who's stuck a shovel in the ground and gone down a foot? Is it clay?
For
Is
us,
caliche?
But it's so regional around here. You know, Linden is so different from Pinedale is different from Pine Top, and that volcanic stuff. You got, I mean, I am clay.
Are you guys mostly volcanic and less clay over here in Eager?
We're volcanic.
Mostly volcanic, less clay?
Rock.
Rock.
Yeah.
Okay. So you'd address it just a little bit differently here for your own property. Now, when you get out to the bigger areas, it's harder to address these things that you can do on your own. So we'll start with the drought. Okay. The drought, especially in the volcanic and the clay soils. Okay. The volcanic soils are similar, but the clay is easier to explain, but they both kind of work the same way. Okay, your clay colloids, they sit like this together, okay, and there's nothing can get in or out. There's tons of minerals in there, but there's a positive and negative surface. These sides are positive, and this center is negative. So they overlap each other like this, and they're locked into place. There's two things that your soil has to have to spread those apart and then pop them up so they sit like this instead of like this. Okay, when they sit like this, clay will hold water forever. Forever. Zero drought issues, right? If you can get them structured. That's called flocculated with clay. And the way we do that is with calcium. Okay? Calcium is how we flocculate the clay. But we can't flocculate clay with calcium unless we have hydrogen. Okay? We have high pH soils here, correct? 8.5, 9. Is that what you guys are at?
I'm 7.5.
I'm 9.5 where I'm at. But anyway, yeah, anytime you're above 6.5, you got problems. The pH scale, pH means potential hydrogen. It's a logarithmic scale. Every 1 point is 10 times the point before. So when we're talking about potential hydrogen, so acids, what makes acids acid is the hydrogen molecule attached to the front of it. It's a proton. Okay. I'm gonna try to go light on the chemistry because I see I'm losing a few people. But anyway, so our soil microbiology creates organic acids. That's what they do continually. That gives you your proton. They split water atoms. Every plant splits water atoms into protons and oxygen, and then uses that to create energy and sugars and whatnot from that. When we have heavy droughts, especially with these clay soils that are not flocculated, the microbiology can't survive. They can't get between those clay particles, right? And when they can't survive, all your protons are gone. That's where they're coming from. They're coming from the plant. They're coming from the microbiology. The plant stress, obviously, it's not giving any out. When the microbiology's gone, there's nothing else that can be compensated there. So in these type of soils, your first order of business alongside calcium is protons, organic acids. Okay, everybody's real familiar with one, vinegar. That's my favorite go-to, especially for flowering and fruiting plants, soil where there's flowering and fruiting plants, because it drives flowering and fruiting. Other organic acids do other things, but citric acid's a good one. Acetic acid's a good one. A lot of people use sulfuric acid. I don't really recommend that one.
What is urea?
Urea is basically two ammonia functional groups on a carbon dioxide molecule in the center. So there's a carbon dioxide and there's an ammonia here and ammonia there. Urea it's generally used as a nitrogen fertilizer, and it's not very good to use in oxidized soil because it causes excessive oxidation, and that's what we're already dealing with. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get some reduction. Our oxidized, dry, hydrogen-less soils are completely alkaline, right? When we get into reduced soils, we start adding some organic acids and other things that can create. I'm going to show you how to do it a little cheaper than covering your garden in vinegar, because that could get real pricey real quick. But certain microbes will feed on sugar and create tons of organic acids, tons. And so what we can do is we can inoculate the soil with those, and then they cause a reducing environment in the soil. Not only do they bring you lots of hydrogen to start spreading the clay particles so the calcium can get in and stand them up. They bring in a lot of hydrogen, but then also they're going to help control pathogenic microbiology in some of the same ways that they acidify the soil. But they're gonna immediately, but then even more over time, continue to bring your soils back to a pH that's conducive to a good microbiome and good plant growth, which is around 6.3. A long ways to go from where we're at.
So are you always trying to get your soil to that pH 7 or that neutral zone? Is that
Around 6.3 to 6.4 is better, because then you have a little bit more hydrogen there. When you cross 7, there's no potential hydrogen left. Now it's all locked up with hydroxyl ions and other things. Another benefit to getting your soil closer to that pH and inoculation, and if you're hand watering things and your water is a high pH, you can put an inline doser. So you can just go out there and water, and it'll be dosed coming through that hose. If you want to make things happen fast, you can do that. If you are okay with it taking 2 and 3 months, mix up an inoculation. I have one going out here. I'm going to show everybody how I put it together, and we're going to apply it when we're done with this class. And then, if Connie's okay, you guys can come back in 2 weeks and look where we applied it. Because with this method, you have a little bit longer before you want to even start getting crazy with going after them, because you want them actually to get active before you do what we're doing. And the reason why is because they spread it. Once it gets on them, they spread it to everything else that kills all the bad bugs. But we'll get into that. So the first order of business is getting that soil conducive to microbiology, conducive to the plant that's sitting in it, because plant health is number one. Okay, once your bricks is at 11, they'll never touch it. It doesn't matter if your neighbor's not doing anything. They won't come touch your tree.
Will you define bricks again?
Yes, it's the measure of total dissolved solids, sugars and minerals predominantly within the plant sap. And do you want that guy's name? That's a really good teacher on this.
Oh,
Yes.
I think I remember.
Thomas
Dykstra.
Yeah,
Well,
he's
Thomas-
really good.
Thomas
And then on
Dykstra.
soil, if you guys want somebody who can explain this 100 times better than me for your soil,
DYKSTRA. You can find him on
Glenn Rabenberg, Rabenberg. He explains this perfectly. I cannot even touch how he explained it. But getting a good glimpse of what calcium and the organic acids are going to do for your soil as far as water holding capacity. That right there overcomes drought. Your calcium and organic acid. The organic acids can come from organic acids, or they can come from inoculation. And I'll show you some microbiology that just builds organic acids. In fact, that's how you tell when it's done filtering, because it'll be a pH of 3.5. So then you spread that, and it does that to your soil. So it's capable of bringing your pH down 1 to So if you're at 8.5, that brings you down to potentially to 7 just with that. Right, that's big. That's huge. Because now your soil will take water, it won't run off, and then it will hold it. So when that top 2 inches is dry, the next foot below it has plenty. You know, without getting super saturated and having pathogens come in, because that's what happens with this clay up here when it gets saturated is it's not flocculated and it's anaerobic completely once it's wet. And then you see Phytophthora, which is the yellow spotting in the junipers, the brown needles on the junipers. That's Phytophthora. That's a fungus. It's not even a bark beetle. And that means that that tree's more unhealthy than some of these ones that have bark beetles, because that can't touch a tree above 5 bricks. So you see that the soil and the drought and the non-flocculated clay is your biggest hurdle here. And that's your most expensive hurdle. Everything else is cheaper. Because if you have a lot of land, it could cost you a fair bit to bring in enough gypsum. I'm going to get into other ways you can treat it too. Gypsum's your number one friend in these type of soils. It doesn't increase alkalinity. It helps a little bit with acidity, not a lot, but a little bit. It doesn't change the pH a ton. But it gets in there and it flocculates those
So I was going to ask
soils
you
real well. And gypsum's cheap.
Somehow I have an excess of drywall mud sitting.
Well, don't use that because there's a lot of additives in it. But gypsum's 20 cents a pound. Triples or Diamond Sea Feeds in St. John's is where I always buy the crushed gypsum. Don't buy smokestack gypsum. Buy mined gypsum. There's smokestack gypsum for sale at Lowe's and places like that, and it's brown or black. Don't buy that. That stuff's horrible. But mined gypsum is white to off-white, grayish color. Super cheap, 40-pound bag, $8. Right? On a tree that's 40 feet tall, 20 feet across, you're going to want to put 5 or 6 pounds of gypsum and go out from the trunk to the edge of the branch line and just sprinkle it and then water that in. And, you know, if you have water that's pH'd down to 6.2 or so, and you water over that, you're going to work it right into that clay instantly.
They buy gypsum over by Albuquerque, a whole
You
mountain.
can buy it by the truckload, yes, and that's what I was going to say. If you have a lot of land and you have a lot of trees on those, and you want to save that, call in a load of gypsum. It's not that expensive when you buy it by the load. It's pennies a pound, pennies, and that does more to any soil. If you're dealing with weeds, that'll get rid of your weeds. If you have thistles and dandelions that you can't get rid of, throw gypsum down. I promise it won't grow anymore. They're pulling calcium from deep in the dirt, and they're bringing it up to the surface. They just carbonate and recycle it. The thing with calcium, it sinks. That's why we have the issues on the surface. Calcium sinks. It's a heavy, heavy element, and every time rain comes through, it goes further down. I guarantee the top 4 inches of this soil have 0 measurable calcium. And the reason I'm telling you that is because I can walk out there and just get around. Calcium causes structure in soil without compaction.
So
Okay.
if we
And it always goes down. So we always need to put more out if we want our super health.
So then how often should we treat with gypsum?
I would do every 6 months. Every 6 months. If you have a major issue or if you're growing row crops or veggies, I'd do it every other month. But for trees, every 6 months is fine. And then what you'll see happen is everywhere, like when you do this, you go out and spread the gypsum and then inoculate the base of that tree. You can go out 3-4 weeks later and stick a shovel down. It'll just sink like butter. I mean, it just right on down there. That's how you tell your soil's good. In dry soil, in fairly dry soil, it'll do that. And it doesn't take that long if it's at the root of a plant with inoculation and calcium. You'd be amazed at how fast that happens.
So if you've got 4 acres or something like that, and you put all this around the trees, but you have no access to water in those 4 acres, can you kind of strategize this before a rainfall? And then have the rain water into the soil?
That would be best because it'll blow away outside of that.
Okay.
yes, that would be best. What I would do if you've got 4 acres, load up a tote in the back of your truck or some 55-gallon barrels, and drive around and put your gypsum out, and put, even if it's just 2 or 3 gallons at the base of each tree, kind of, because that's where your inoculation's in that water, and that's where the juice is coming. That's where your protons, your hydrogen's coming from. So I would do that, and then when you get a rain after, if you don't get a rain for a week, it's no biggie because that won't blow off. You've kind of got it into the soil a little bit.
Just real quick, this isn't. Is this okay for animals as you're doing this?
100%.
Okay.
They will only get healthier. Yes, 100%. In humans and animals, calcium is the mother of all nutrients in every living thing. It defines pathology in pathogens. It literally can cause or stop pathogenic expression in human, plant, animal pathogens. Calcium. Other nutrients can do that too, but calcium can do it in every single thing. Every single thing. If you have ADD, that's a calcium problem. If you have seizures, that's a calcium problem. Let's see what else. Yeah.
Question. You mentioned that it would kill weeds, but what if we wanted to have...
It doesn't kill weeds. Weeds are there because your ground's lacking something. The specific weeds I mentioned, and most weeds, if you find weeds that once they get big, you pull it and it's got a big fat root, that's because it went way down there and brought all that calcium up. If you go dig a baby thistle up, it'll have a little tiny but long root. But once you see that thistle go, dig it up, that root's that fat. And it's because it's full of calcium, it brought it all up to the surface. Those are there because your surface doesn't have any calcium, and so other things don't outcompete that because other things don't have roots like that. So weeds are just a symptom of what's going on in your soil. It doesn't kill them. They just are no longer needed, and other plants outcompete them.
What is the gypsum? What's its effect on the prairie grass or your yard?
You're going to improve every living thing on that soil. You're going to improve the microbiology in the soil that keeps everything healthy. You're going to improve every plant that's on it. Now, calcium seeking weeds, you're not going to hurt them, but they're going to get overgrown by other things and choked out. That's why you'll stop seeing all your plants that you mean to be there in your forages. Those are all going to get super, super healthy, and you're not going to see pathogenicity in them anymore. Are you growing feed for it, or?
Well, yeah.
What are you growing?
It's the county seed mix.
Are you seeing anywhere scab or blight or anywhere anything on those?
I can't
Okay.
get much of grow it.
Oh, it's not wanting to grow. I got you. You're not going to see it grow. That's what you say. The gypsum's going to flocculate that clay down in there and allow it to accept water and then retain water, right? Instead of running off, because most of it just runs off. This silt and this clay runs right off. But calcium holds it there, and then it keeps other minerals from getting out of control. When we have high magnesium, which we do around all this log stuff, right? That's what causes the compaction. The magnesium causes the hard, like concrete soil. And calcium kicks magnesium out. When it kicks magnesium out, magnesium's holding on to 10 nitrogens down in there too. And all those nitrogens become available and everything turns green. So you'll see that on here. You'll see a bloom of nitrogen that just everything comes to life when you put that calcium with no nitrogen. The gypsum.
No, but they train it.
And if you have acreage, bring it in by the truckload, throw a ton down per acre to start with, and then go from there. Go a year, see what you think.
The gypsum is loaded with calcium?
It's calcium sulfate predominantly.
Do you have any sources local for the gypsum?
Gypsum, yes. Diamond Sea Feeds is my favorite place to go for that.
I mean,
Probably
if you need
should tell you
a
that. Does it sell out now? What's that?
if you need a load,
Oh, for a load?
I know
There's
the power
a-
plant uses a lot.
There's a mine over here in St. John's, and I don't know if they mine gypsum or just lime, but it might be worth calling because they're generally in the same vicinities. I don't buy it by the load. I can tell you where you get a 50-pound bag for $10 of micronized, which is solution grade. You can water it in. It's immediately available. And I'll show you that and tell you where to get it. Wilbur Ellis, if you want to write it
And how
down.
far is 50 pounds going to go? I mean,
50 pounds is going to do, so if you got a 40-foot tall tree, 20 foot across, that's going to take you 5 to 7 pounds. So you'll get 10 of those 8 or 10 of those trees out of that. It's pretty inexpensive. I mean, it's a buck a tree for a good sized tree.
sorry, I didn't mean to.
Right.
redirect.
No, you're good. You're good. The questions are good because we're going to
pose
post
them as
this
I think
up.
of them.
So then other people, so the more questions you ask, the better, because then other people's questions will get answered as well.
Where did you say you got it from?
Gypsum. Okay, so Wilbur Ellis, Wilbur, WILBUR dash Ellis. They have micronized gypsum that it doesn't dissolve in water, but it completely suspends. And it's immediately available.
And that's Diamond Feeds in St. John's, you said?
That's from Wilbur Ellis. From Diamond Sea Feeds in St. John's, they have 40-pound bags of crushed gypsum, which is better for the long-term treatment. The micronized kind of gets you a kick in the butt right now, but the crush is going to give you a 3-month window of gypsum right there. So it's better for ease of use.
Long term.
It's long-term, yeah.
Where is Wilbur Ellis?
Wilbur Ellis is in Scottsdale.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's $50 for a 10-pound bag of micronized. I do go down there every once in a while, so somebody needs to take a share if I can. Okay, is there any other questions on the plant health and how we achieve? Oh, I did leave something out. Hang on. So with our oxidized soils, there's some main micronutrient metals that are necessary for photosynthesis. They power the pathway that splits the water atom and creates the ATP and the sugars. Those are manganese, powers that pathway. Iron is the cofactor for making chlorophyll. Magnesium is the center ion of chlorophyll. Cobalt and molybdenum are both required in very trace amounts for processing nitrogen into proteins. Those are and then boron. Boron transports sugar. Boron is the truck driver for sugar. Okay, that's important because sugar needs to be transported to all different places depending on what's going on with the plant, and that gets done at lightning fast speeds. If all those nutrients are sufficient. Now, 2 of those nutrients have a major problem in these soils, and it's not that they're not present. They're present in massive amounts, but they're in the wrong oxidative state. Iron 3 plus is toxic as crap. It's very, very toxic. It's very destructive to microbiology. And it causes issues with aluminum when it starts getting too high. These soils are very high in aluminum, but so long as we don't get them below a pH of 5.5, we never have to deal with that. Aluminum will only show its ugly head if that pH goes too low. Okay, so there's a point you don't want to go too low, but it's almost impossible to do that with this one because we're so far above where we need to be.
Could you repeat what you just said
About
the pH?
There's a lot of aluminum in these soils. Your basalt, your volcanic rock, is predominantly aluminosilicate. It's 13+% aluminum. But it's locked up with that silica so long as the pH stays above 5.5. If it goes below that, you're going to free up aluminum and you're going to kill stuff everywhere. And we're going to get into aluminum because there's a lot of aluminum coming down right now. Okay, so we keep that in mind. Yeah.
So you're saying you need a pH of 5.5 up to 6?
No. Your ideal soil pH is going to be 6.2 to 6.4 in that mid-6 range, even 6.5. If you get below 5.5, you're going to deal with a whole bunch of problems with aluminum. So that's not easy to do up here, but just be aware if you're putting a bunch of acid down and you're not pHing your water, you could cause some issues. Okay, so those metals. In alkaline oxidized soils, those two metals, manganese and iron, which are highly present, are both in the wrong oxidative state. Iron's in a 3+ and manganese is in a 4+. Completely toxic to the plant. Plant can't use it. The problem is the plant will take it up and then not be able to use it. And then you see problems like what you see out there with dead plant material, especially at the tips and stuff, is where it starts going. Certain funguses like Phytophthora exacerbate that. Okay, so if we apply those micronutrients that are required for photosynthesis to the plant, and on trees we can do it to the bark. We do not have to get up there and hit the leaves. We just can spray the bark at this level here, and they will take it all up. And you will see the trees change in color overnight, okay? And what that does is it sparks photosynthesis. You could go out there, measure these trees. They're probably at 5 or 6 bricks. You could spray this stuff on them and check them the next day or the day after, and they'll be at 11 or 12. Like, it's that fast. It doesn't stay like that, though, at first. When they're really bad off, that needs to be done every 2 weeks, once a month, and that tree will stay in that high bricks state until the microbiology and soil catch up. Because what's happening when it's making all that sugar, the boron's helping it push it all to the roots, where most of the sugar that's made in the plant goes to the roots to feed the microbiology. When we have these plants lose their health, they lose their microbiology because they can't feed it. They can't feed it that sugar. So increasing the bricks with the foliar spray because you have issues with your soil is the best and fastest way to turn around plant health, and it in turn corrects the soil. So it's a big loop.
Is there a way for us to test the bricks on our trees?
Yes.
Do we know?
Yes. So the best bricks meter for trees is going to be the cheapest one. They're about $18-20 on Amazon, and it's called a bricks refractometer. Have you used one before?
No, I've seen them, and I just, is this real or not? So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
glad you're here to tell me.
Bricks refractometer, and the handheld non-digital is the best for trees because it's a little bit harder to get a lot of sap. The digital ones require a lot more juice. So, but you know, it might be hard to get bricks readings right now, right? But as that plant starts to improve at all, it'll be pretty easy because it'll start filling those needles back up with water and sap. But when it's really bad, it can be difficult. When they're down at 5 below, it can be difficult to get a bricks reading, and sometimes seeing what pests are bothering them is your best bricks reading. I haven't taken a bricks reading on a single plant at my house in over a year because I use the herbivores as my signal, and the best sign you can ever see, ever, if you walk out to your garden or to anywhere, these don't feed on trees, but if you see one grasshopper bite out of a leaf and no more bites anywhere, your plant is impenetrable because they will still try to take a bite and they'll walk away because it will hurt their gut. So that's the best thing you can see. That's your telltale. Go out You know, and so with the trees, if the bark beetles are in there, the only other signal you kind of have besides that is going to be either the cleanup beetles or the blue fungus. That's the only thing that you're going to have to tell you that Brix is below the bark beetle. When that bark beetle leaves, you know it's above 11, at least there. When you get to 8 or so, you'll be able to check it. And so you'll know if you're within range. You know, hey, I maybe got another week or two, and I'll be clear, you know. Because once you get it up there and you can keep it consistently at 12, they can't touch it. They'll die. They will die. Yeah.
Does that go for any tree? I'm in Springerville, and you have I think it's the Chinese elm.
It goes for all plants, period. I think you missed, if you want to write down Dr. Thomas Dykstra, he's on YouTube and he's studied this for 20 years. But yes, every plant is susceptible to this same bugs if they feed on that plant within a Brix range. And the aphids and your suckers are the lowest. And then you have your biters, and then you have your beetles, which are chewers, and grasshoppers are right above beetles. Beetles stop before grasshoppers. And so, you know, if you have aphids, you know that you got a long ways to go. If you see one grasshopper bite, you're set. You don't have to worry about nothing, because nothing's going to touch it.
Apparently, I don't have bark beetles, but I have pinon scale.
Okay, the scale is a bottom feeder, so it sits right in there with the suckers, the aphids and whatnot. So you're at 5 or below, so you're super susceptible to bark beetles if they were to come along. So if you were to get, for immediate help, get some of the pheromone packets, put it on your tree. They run the bark beetles out. We'll get you a brand name. Somebody's got that brand name.
I'm going to post where you can get those.
Yeah, those pheromone things are pretty good, and they don't have so many negative side effects as the pesticides and different things. Pheromone, yeah. Pheromone. Pheromone.
I just found out where we can purchase those.
Perfect. If you want to post that information up for everybody. So that would be, if you know your tree is susceptible, it's below that Brix range, then go ahead and get your pheromone packets. They're inexpensive. Hang it on that tree, on every single tree that is suffering any type of pathogen. It's below the feeding of the beetles, if there's any pathogen on it. Pathogens stop at 6.
So that's immediate.
That's immediate. And then you would treat with your gypsum and your inoculation. And then for best results, you're going to spray a foliar spray of the micronutrients on the bark of the tree. And you will see immediate. As soon as you do that, you'll see an immediate difference, and you stop it being prone. Okay. If there's bark beetles in the tree, we go further than that. Okay, we don't just rely on the tree repelling them. We go further than that, and that's what I'll get into next. Is everybody good on plant health, soil?
Oh, I'm just wondering, would that be the same for the Phytophthora?
Phytophthora? Yeah, are you the one that had it? Phytophthora can't attack a tree over 5, and the gypsum and the inoculation alone stops the Phytophthora. If you have Arizona cypress, they'll turn blue within 10, 14 days. They'll get their blue back. That's how quick it works.
So if you put those gerbanone,
The pheromones?
the pheromones on the trees that already have beetles in them, will it make the beetles go away?
Yes. But is that what you really want to do? It will. Is that what you want to do, though?
No.
Okay. Because I'm going to tell you how we're going to address that. And then what you do is this second part we're going to talk about, you address it as they start getting active, which is at that 60-degree mark, right? When I pulled bark back and disturbed them, they moved. But there was no movement until I did that. We're 10 degrees cold still. So you have a week or two, right, to decide how do I want to do this.
60 degrees when they start moving.
60 is where they start moving. 75 is where their egg cycle decreases to 2 to 3 days. So they multiply real fast at 75 and above. So you have a 3-4 week window between 60 and 75 that you want to hit them hard. Okay, because then what we do to them, they take and spread it like a virus to all the other ones and take them all out. So
you mentioned the minerals here. What ingredient has all those, and how do you get all that?
Well, that's a good question. I forgot to even address this part. I have a company. I make plant products. My company started 5 years ago when I discovered a natural plant extract that stops quorum signaling instantly in pathogens and gives you a window to reverse the pathogenicity. I can't tell you right now.
Cards on the table.
And then
you might have more that has his website. And stuff.
my website's there. I make a foliar spray specifically meant to increase photosynthesis to put you past any pest or pathogen attack. It will take you past 12, the first application. Now, will you stay past 12 for more than a day or two? Not if your soil's crap, right? But it will immediately take you past 12. And then, guess what? A whole bunch of sugar goes down there and things start changing, And then a week later, you spray that on again and we get a flush again. And then you'll see that brick stay up for 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, a month. And then you don't have to treat it anymore because it's getting everything it needs from the soil, right? In plants that are in the ground, it only takes a max of 10 applications over 2 to 3 months to never have to apply it again because it completely fixes the soil on any type of plant that's a perennial. Now on plants in pots, that's a little different, right? But usually your soil's a little better in a pot because you spent the time to make that small amount better. So usually that's 1 or 2 applications, and then your plant is bulletproof. And I've done this over and over again with aphids, spider mites, scab, whiteflies, or not scab, I can't remember the name of it. You said it, but scale, whiteflies, even squash bugs. It doesn't matter.
Oh, wow.
You spray the plant, and you don't have, if you guys want to see some of the stuff that I've grown and done and be able to zoom in and see how perfect everything looks without a spot on any leaf, you're welcome to when we're done.
Ground squirrels.
So anyway.
Ground squirrels.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because I forgot to tell you that. And I do have a discount code set up for you guys, and you can pass it around the Bark Beetle group so that you can get a 10% off anything on my website. So I have a biostimulant product. That's the first one that I developed, and it breaks pathogenic quorum signaling. It stops pathogenic attack immediately in all plants, and it improves the vigor and stance of the plant immediately because it's literally calling all your native microbes over there, and then all your stuff that's coming in a jug that's pretty lazy. Have you guys used bugs in a jug before? Microbes out of a package from the store. They're always lazy. Okay, you find all these studies that say they'll do this, this, and this, and then you use it and it doesn't really pan out that way because they're kind of lazy. They were grown in a lab, and my biostimulant kicks them into gear. It's an extract of a polyphenol that's in every single plant. So you're not giving your plant something it doesn't have. Most plants don't push it out their roots. Invasive species push this certain thing out their roots, and that's what makes them invasive species. Because they then get all that microbiology from help them. So, and then I have another product that's more just for crops.
I probably missed it earlier, but this bark beetle, the pinon pine, does it get into cedars and junipers too?
Not as much, no, and not really. They're very disinterested. If for some reason the tree it's in just became kaput and went down to bricks of 3 and they don't want it anymore, and there's not a tree within 3 miles, they might take a few bites from that cedar, but I've never seen them make any pitch holes. I've never seen it.
Yeah, Heber says he'll take all of our bark beetle ridden trees out.
Yeah, if the burn thing gets done and you guys need somewhere to dump them, I'll take them. Because I'll cut them up and get that blue wood out of them.
Hey,
I don't have trees to worry about.
How deep are the bark beetle in the tree? If
All the way to the center.
if we're going to cut down.
All the way to the center. When you cut a tree down, you see
we
the
cut
egg
all these
tubes.
dead things down because of fire. How far down do we have to cut the trees?
They go all the way down into the root, the first foot of the roots even.
They go into the roots.
They can, yeah. Especially because this dirt's moving all the time.
And
That
is
root.
it true you're not supposed to cut these piñons? No, I don't know if this is. I know you're not supposed to cut them after March.
Once those things start moving around and you start doing stuff to the trees, you'll cause it to spread under normal conditions.
You got to get rid of it right away and burn it.
Under normal conditions. I'm going to tell you how to make it actually helpful, though. We're going to get into that as soon as we make sure nobody has any more questions on plant health. Because I don't want to miss anything on that before we go on. You look real familiar. What's your name? Huh?
Can we find reference all this information on your website?
I'm going to post this video on my YouTube. And there's a link to my YouTube on my website. And it's the same name, Mike.
Okay, thank you.
And I have an Instagram too. And that's where most of the pictures are. If you guys want to see stuff I'm doing. And the pathogens I'm getting rid of and pests. Most of that's on Instagram. That's where I do most of that. And I do consulting as well. If you have a special issue that you want dealt with, get with me, and I can give you, 10% besides that too. But I can work out something special with you guys. Anything else on plant? We're good. Okay. So, where's my phone go? Oh, my phone's here in my notes. Okay. So there are 3 main beneficial fungus that absolutely annihilate bark beetles. And they also annihilate every other pest you're going to see in your garden. So, if you don't want pests in your garden, listen up. These are called entomopathogenic fungi. Entomo is the bug. Pathogenic to bugs. Fungus pathogenic to bugs. What it does is these 3 fungus in particular, a lot of fungus do this, but these 3 fungus in particular, they feed on chitin. Chitin is a sugar polymer that is the hard shell of bugs. Okay? That's why I was collecting bark beetles this morning. So, these 3 fungus are, if you want to write them down, you can, but there's reference studies that have them in there because these are kind of hard to spell out. But on that back page of references, you'll find all 3 of these. And the reference studies, so that you can go a little deeper if you want. There's, there you go, 1, 2, 3, 4, I think there's 4. And those are going to show everything that I'm going to tell you right here in the next little bit. These 3 fungus are Beauveria bassiana, Trichoderma harzanium, and Metarhizium. Metarhizium is common in corn. It's a natural endophyte of corn. That's why you only see certain types of pests attack corn, because the other types can't. If it's endophytically associated. If it's got a bad microbiome, you might see any number of things in corn. But if it has a good microbiome, it's got Metarhizium, and you won't see any hard-shelled insects on that plant do any damage. Okay. Trichoderma harzanium. One of my absolute favorite of all time fungus to work with. This fungus is capable of taking out pretty much any pathogenic fungus, and it's capable of eating the eggs of pretty much any insect. Devours them, parasitizes them. So it stops the egg cycle. It can also infect and kill adults, but it's more effective on the larvae and the eggs. The Bovaria bassiana is more effective on the adults. And when this is over, I can show you guys pictures of what that looks like. Basically, you get little white fluffies at all the bodily intersections. You'll see little white fluffs come out. They stay alive for 3 to 5 days and spread that to every single bug they come in contact with before they die. So you literally have an assault team working for you. Okay.
Wow.
So now let's get into cutting those trees down. What happens if you treat a tree really well and then cut it down?
Whether it's dead or alive, or
Think about it. If it's dead, it's not going to have very many in it. If there's some green on the tree, it's full of it because it's still got enough bricks to support them. So if we were to go out there and spray down a tree that's really heavily infested, wait till a nice warm day, 3 or 4 days down the road, and cut it down, then all those are going to leave, and they're all going to go to the next closest trees that are inhabitable by them. And what happens is they spread that fungus. And then that fungus takes out all those in a 4 or 5 day period as they come in contact with them. So I'm not saying just spray one tree, but I'm saying this is what will happen when you start treating them. Is everything in the surrounding area will also die. All the bugs will also die that are inhabiting trees.
you should spray more than one tree.
I would, yeah, just because I don't want to wait till they spread. But what I'm saying is that the adage of not cutting them down when it gets warmer is not true in these circumstances. It helps. The exact opposite helps. Kind of like sometimes when your doctor tells you don't do something and you don't do it and it made it worse. And if you did do it, it helped. It's kind of like that, right? Not all lines of science are looking at all the different things that can happen. And so, they'll tell you, and yeah, if you have live beetles and you didn't put some kind of something on them to make them take crap to kill other beetles, it'd be crazy to cut the tree down.
Well, they're saying that you need to cut the tree and then get rid of it right away.
Right.
Immediately.
What you can do in these circumstances is instead of burning it, leave it lay.
Well, the problem we have right now is we have thousands and thousands of dead trees.
Right.
And
Well, no. Okay.
fire season's coming.
Let me be a little more clear about what I'm not saying pile up a bunch of dead trees in the forest. What I'm saying, get out everything that's dead. You got to get that out. It's a fire hazard, right? Those beetles aren't on those trees. Not They're eating those trees. Those are just a fire hazard at this point if they're dead. If there's no green on them and every branch is snappy, they're just a fire hazard. They're not a beetle trap. The only thing that's in there is dead eggs and larvae and molts, lots of molts. So those need to be hauled off. But if you have a tree that's 70% of the way down, and you treat it real good with these three, yeah, we did.
Find one down there?
Yeah, and you treat it with these 3 fungus. You wait a couple days for them, a couple of 60+ degree days, so they're taking it around in that tree, and then cut that tree down, and don't haul it off, because those will take care of so much going out.
Fungus.
Right. Those aren't going to do 100% for everything around it, but they'll do 40%, and then you only have 60 more to deal with. Right? And when you knock 40% of those out of a tree, and that tree's at 9, it can come back real easy to 11, 12, and then no problems. Right? So, treating and then cutting and then dropping can be done super sensibly to help you. Okay. For the same reason that you would not want to do this method right now, where if you're going to use a chemical, you better get on it before 60 degrees happens on a daily basis.
We're running out of time.
If you're going to do a chemical, you got not very long to do it because you got to do it before that 60. This gives you a little more time because you got a couple more weeks before you're between 60 and 75. Because what we want to do is we won't wait till it hits 60 for a couple days straight and then hit them all with the fungus. And then as it starts getting warmer, they move around and they all kill each other.
Monday 61, Tuesday 63, Wednesday 62, Thursday
There you go.
61.
Start on Tuesday or Wednesday,
Worker?
and go through the weekend, and then if you have a tree here or there that you don't want to leave standing because it's too dry to leave standing, but it still has a little life in it. After you've treated it, cut it, drop it, spray it down again. Might as well, right? And then let those things be your assault team. Let them be your assault team.
So are we mixing are we mixing it together, or is
Okay, so what we do, because these things some of them are not too expensive to buy, and some of them are really, really pricey. Like the Trichoderma harzanium, it's $200 a pound, right? I have 3 pounds with me, and whoever wants some can have an ounce for free. But I'm going to show you guys how to. I have that. I've used it for 3 years, and I still have that out of a 3-pound container. I still have over 2 pounds. The reason why is because you take a couple teaspoons of it and you put it in the 55-gallon drum, or whatever size you're making. You put the appropriate amount of food for that fungus, and we'll discuss that. And then you put a bubbler, let it run for 24, 48 hours. There's ways to know how dense that colony is with pH, because they like to change the pH. And so we can check the pH and know that we have a thick, dense colony there. And then you go spread that, save a little bit of it, and immediately start another one. Okay, who's made sourdough bread here before? Whoever's made sourdough bread, you understand the fermentation process. If you let it go too long without feeding it, it all dies or it goes dormant. Okay, if you keep feeding it in small increments, it grows very fast. Correct? Everybody who's done sourdough? If you overfeed it all at once, it'll eventually double, but it'll take 6 or 8 or 10 hours instead of 2, right? So small frequent feedings is the same way we do this. If we're talking, we need 10,000 gallons, okay? We're talking, let's do a third of the town of Eager. Let's make 10,000 gallons. And everybody come, bring their truck and load up and go to your own property. Okay, to make 10,000 gallons, we can do it with an ounce in a week of time.
And you were asking if anybody here had an airplane to drop this stuff down. Does anybody know anyone that?
But if anybody knows anybody who has an aerial watering setup, plane or drone, you guys can literally, I can show you how to do the whole town of Eager and everything surrounding it, so you don't have to worry about no fires. For less than $1,000 is purchase stuff to do the whole place if you have a way to spread it. And if you don't have a way to spread it, hoses and sprayers for your own property work great.
And that would clear us from having any more of these beetles.
Right. If you took it over the top of these hills, it'd be a done deal. And these 4 studies on the back of here, if somebody wants to pull one up, if you guys want to look at it, if you just want to save that for later. But one of these studies, it went head to head with with 1 or 2 or all 3 of those strains of fungus. Okay, so there was 3 different groups there being tested, and then I think there was 4 or 5 major leading pesticides that they went up against. The pesticides across the board were 60 to 84% effective at getting rid of on the first application. After that, all bets were off, and each one was a little different because the bugs quickly grow immune to whatever chemical you're putting on it.
But they can't grow immune to the
They
fungus.
cannot grow immune to the other fungus because the other fungus, I'll explain this to you and you'll understand sickness and health a little easier. Every single fungus in nature samples the DNA of its host. As soon as it samples the DNA of its host, it can kill you or make you almost invincible. Either one. Because now it knows exactly what your body needs. It knows exactly what your body doesn't have. It knows exactly what your body does have. It knows exactly how your body's going to fight back against it. Okay? So, the same thing goes, and in nature, you know, it's all a game of terrain. We've been taught germ theory that this bacteria does this, but you can go take samples from 50 healthy people and you'll still have that same bacteria in there.
But the fungus doesn't hurt people.
No. And those are all, I put some of that stuff in, I put a study for safety stuff in there. It's one of those is a safety one. The only one that has ever shown any infection ever, and it was one very, very rare occurrence, was Bowvaria bastiana. It was somebody that was almost dead already, and they had an infection, and the Bowvaria came in as well. But outside of something really crazy, and that's one, like that's it, ever recorded. So, they actually tend to improve health. We have yeast and fungus on our skin, and
Candida, you know what I mean?
well, Candida is actually beneficial as long as it doesn't overgrow.
Right, but an overgrowth of Candida.
Overgrowth is really bad.
I mean, I was thinking it, but I didn't want to say it.
Right, Candida overgrowth
its
is
own,
real bad
right?
because then it starts getting into your cells and eating things inside your cell that it shouldn't get to. And these other funguses, Trichoderma in particular, is in our digestive tract. And when we go out there, I'll show you guys some pretty cool stuff. But these are ubiquitous; they're everywhere, but they're not in high enough numbers to take out big numbers of pests. Okay, so. What I usually recommend to people to do is get a small group of people together, purchase the three funguses. Okay, I have two of them, and you know, one of them I can give away samples, and the other one I can sell samples for what I pay for it. The third one, the Bowvaria, I'm out of it at the moment, but that one's the cheapest one.
Where do you get those?
Arbico is a good place to get all three. Arbico organic. And they're really good on their inoculants, but they're really horrible with their beneficial pests or beneficial bugs. So beneficial bugs are no go from there, but microbiology seems to be really good from them.
ARBICO?
Yeah.
So given, I know with the temperatures coming here, so I mean, realistically, I don't know. I've got 4 acres. So I don't know.
So if you have 4 acres, how heavily treed is it?
Well, it's mixed. So it's got pinions and it's got a lot of the junipers in between. And it's ravine. It goes down to the irrigation.
And the junipers are in the bottom, the pinions are up on the sides.
Yeah. So they kind of surround this. They're spotted all over the place. So near the house, it's easy. I've got water access there. But as you get further back, I mean, there's no way I can get water back there.
No way to get back there with the side-by-side or
I can
anything?
get my side-by-side to some parts of the property.
Because if you can take 5 gallons to each tree, that's all you need.
Okay.
Just 5 gallons to each tree. And that'll get things going. And then your rain will fill in your gaps for you a lot.
Okay.
You know, I mean, if you still see trouble, then I would take 5 gallons out there again a couple weeks later. But you'll see things turn around really fast, especially when you put the foliar spray on there. Okay. Because the biostimulant will bring all that indigenous microbiology, which is stronger than what we have in the bottle. But the bottle stuff, we need particular numbers of particular fungus to take care of what we're doing with this pest. Okay. Right? And these fungus are in nature. And there is a way that you can collect them in nature and pay nothing. If you want to write down a YouTube video, I'll tell you which one it is. There's a YouTube video. It's about 2 hours long, but it's a really, really good instructional video, and you can get these fungus for free if you want. It just takes you 10 or 14
Can you
days.
just look up your name and look through?
This one's not under my account. This is somebody else. Yeah. I like promoting other people more than myself because I don't do the best explanations. Sometimes I'm right over the top of people's head and I have to watch what their eyes are doing to figure out if I said it right for them to understand it. Other people are better at explaining certain things. And this guy's name is Chris Trump. I don't think he's any relation but to Trump, but he teaches Korean natural farming. He's from Hawaii. And he discovered these by accident. And it takes 10 to 14 days to get your own collection of indigenous ones. And then those are even way better than what's in the bottle. But some of us don't have 10 or 14 days and time to check out to the woods to drop off the collection and time to go check out and pick it back up. You know, we need to do things quickly. So. Okay.
So a quick question.
Mhm.
So let's say we don't, some of us can't get to it this week, and it's going to be 60 degrees. And let's just take my example.
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay.
If you're planning on going this method and not a chemical method, you're fine.
Okay.
The chemical method, you have to start before it starts getting warm. This method, you don't want to start until it does start getting warm.
Okay.
Do you have to hit it right when it's 60? No. Can you wait till the next week? Yes.
Okay.
You know, they're going to get in more trees, but if you have a plan in place, you know what I'm saying?
And then the trees that they would go after, so let's take the 4 acres again. So statistically, what would happen on the 4 acres when they do decide to fly? How will they select the different trees? And will all my trees...
Those other trees send out aromatic compounds. And the other beetles that have found other trees will then release a pheromone that calls those beetles to it. And it's good for 3 to 5 miles in the right wind. So...
Interesting.
But your plants are visible to bugs from 3 to 5 miles away anyway, if they can see them.
And the wind comes.
If certain things are going on. Like aphids can see a plant that's below a 3 bricks from 3 miles away. Aphids can. From 3 miles away. And it's because they see in infrared spectrum, and ammonium reflects in that infrared spectrum, and it looks like a glow plug from just miles away to them, like a flashlight beaconing them in. And that's how most bugs are. It'll be either an aromatic or a visual light spectrum, or outside of our light spectrum even, but a light spectrum.
Has anybody ever done a video on that? These bugs and how they go?
There is, yes. If you look through some of Thomas Dykstra's stuff, and it's crazy what they've learned. Yeah, it's just like a beacon, just from a long ways away. The bark beetle the same way. You know, your plant's letting off. I promise we don't know all the compounds it's signaling with. We know 1 or 2, you know, and we know for sure that there's volatiles coming from the tree or lack of volatiles. A lot of what these trees is. So these trees, all plants, put out terpenes, or they have terpenes in them, terpenoids. Those are aromatic compounds. They're carbon, hydrogen, and if they're oxidized, they also have oxygen and sometimes sulfur and other things in them. But they're predominantly carbon and hydrogen, and they're all different aromatics. They hit different types of olfactory glands. They cause different reflectance and emittance when they're hit with different light particles and all that, and that's how nature's communicating.
So
And these trees, they stop producing one of the terpenes, and when that terpene is not there, it's a magnet.
So this fungus would go after any bark beetle, not just the ones that are going after.
It goes after every single one of them, and it's the only thing that's been proven to be more than 80% effective against the engraver that's in your pinions. That's the hardest one to get rid of. And this is the only thing that's been shown to be effective at all. Most of your chemicals are 60 and 70-ish percent effective because they're up at the top of the trees. They come in at the top and they just leave. As soon as something comes, they just leave and then they'll come right back. right? As soon as that thing's gone or whatever, then they come right back. You
Yeah,
know,
you see
but they're not in the
trees
main
on
part of
top.
the tree where that chemical's getting them as
That's what
much.
ours are doing.
Yeah, that's the bark beetle.
Okay, so one other thing I wanted to address in the two systems of management, you know, the chemicals, it'll stop them fast. There's rebound things that happen. You end up getting the pest immunity to it. And then the problem with pest immunity is not that you still have those pests, that 20% or 10 or even 5% that became immune to that toxin. That's not the problem, that those pests are still there. The problem is that their natural enemy is not immune to that. And when they eat that, it kills all their natural enemies off. And now you have a much exponentiated problem because there's plenty of natural enemies to the bark beetle. But when the woodpeckers start dropping dead because they're full of neonicotinoids, you know.
We didn't know why we had so many woodpeckers. Oh,
They love them. They love them, yeah.
Yeah.
But then you know you see those start depleting around people's places that have used the chemicals. They're not immune to that. So, and those levels will get real high in the bark beetle. We see this in indoor agriculture really, really bad when things like this happen. When you build an immunity to a natural predator, you have no defenses left because they're immune to what you're using. And now they have no natural predator.
And they can't get immune to the fungus.
No, because the fungus will keep changing how it attacks them. Like I said, it samples their DNA. And so if they epigenetically change this expression of their DNA, which happens fairly quickly in funguses, they just attack a different way. They know every single attack method. So there's zero way for them to build any type of immunity. The entomopathogenic fungus, the more of those it encounters, the stronger it is at fighting them. And that's why I put it in our culture. That's why I put them in the culture, because then they're encountering it right there. And when they go out, they're just going to wipe them out. So now the biggest side effect that I've seen from using the tree injections, where they're injecting at the base with abamectin. I have a client that she got her trees treated before I started working for her. And the trees didn't have any pathogens or parasites or anything. And now she's got 70-foot tall pines that are covered in mistletoe. Mistletoe is not killed so easily. Mistletoe doesn't have to rely on the tree. It can produce its own phytonutrients. It starts on the tree, and then it can produce its own, but it's not going to leave the tree because it's got a free ride, right? So these other fungus that normally would kill a pathogen or a pest, this isn't a pathogen or a pest. It's its own plant, and it doesn't do anything. So it becomes much more difficult to treat those trees and save those trees 3 years, 4 years after they got treated by the chemical. And, you know, that's what nobody wants to talk about is you get something like mistletoe coming up behind that. I've been working with her trees for quite a while. I've gotten them healthy enough that it's minimal. It's only in a few of the uppermost spots. It's fallen off all the rest of it, but it's taken me 2 years to get to that, right? Because it's trial and error. You go look for ways to get rid of mistletoe, and the only thing you're going to find is cut that branch off. Yeah. And so it created a much more difficult problem to deal with. Pests and pathogens are easy. Parasites that can live without their hosts are nearly impossible to get rid of.
We could have it worse.
It can get worse because the mistletoe chokes the tree out. And then after you spend all that money and went through all that and got your hopes up, and then a year later, mistletoe starts coming in, and 5 years later, they're all dead anyway.
And the mistletoe probably stresses the tree out.
The mistletoe is horrible stress on the tree.
Right. Also.
Right. It brings the bricks down, and that's, bringing the tree health up is your biggest, because the tree can resist it to a degree, and there's things that can help like chitin and different things like that. But it's a way more difficult problem than any pest. Pests are easy and pathogens are easy if you just understand what they can and can't eat, and what they can and can't withstand. Okay, so does anybody else have any other questions? Yeah.
So can those three fungi, do those like coexist? Like would you?
In nature, you can brew them together. If you want the best results, you're going to co-culture 2 of them and culture the trichoderma separately and mix them before spraying for the absolute best results. Does it need to be done that way? No, you can do them all together. So it's kind of, how much time do you have? How many fermentation barrels do you have? And, whatnot. Because you will get, a little better response if you have higher numbers of each one. And doing the trichoderma separately gets the numbers of the other 2 up, because trichoderma is just really vigorous. So.
How large of a fermentation barrel do you need if you're doing that?
That depends on what you want to treat. I would say 5 gallons for each tree. Okay, 55-gallon drums, you can get them for $20, brand new, or not brand new, but used once, and they had glycerin or something safe in them, fairly safe. Those are $20. The totes are a little more, but you get a little more out of them.
You can get them free at
can you?
Installation.
Oh, awesome.
What's the
Okay.
name of the name? I'm sorry, sir.
Did they have epoxy? Did they have the resin in them though? The foam? Yeah, you don't want those. If they had that in them, you don't want them.
You can clean that out.
I wouldn't. Even using here, I'll tell you how sensitive these guys are. If you use Walmart sugar to culture them with, it won't work because it comes from GMO products. If you use cane sugar, there's no GMO sugar cane yet. The other is from beets, from GMO beets. If you use the sugar cane sugar and not GMO beet sugar, you'll get a good. That's another thing I was going to touch on. Don't use products that have any GMO anything in them when you're doing this, because it kills the microbes. Yeah, they will not do what you want them to do if you're using GMO stuff to culture them.
So if you're getting free barrels from U.S. Installation,
I
you probably
wouldn't.
don't want to use the isosite, right?
If it not isocyanate, what's the other one? What's the other part of that? The isocyanate for sure. You don't want to use. I don't know. Oh yeah, I don't know what the other.
I
chemical
forgot the
is.
exact name of it. But
You probably don't want to use it anyway. You can get the food grade barrels, the food grade one, single use. There's a lady she's in Concho, Selena Ortiz. You can get 5 of them for $100. And then the totes, the 275 gallon totes, are like $150 like that.
Like, you could probably take the
If you have a 55 gallon, it doesn't. It depends on how you're trying to do things too. Are you trying to get this all done in one day, or are you trying to spend an hour this day, an hour a couple of days, like most people's schedule is, right? I got an hour now. I got an hour in a couple of days from now, and maybe in a couple of days I can find a couple more hours. If that's your schedule, that's perfect, because that's how the microbes work with you. Because you start that culture, okay, let it go for 1 to 2 days, go out and spread all but a cup or a gallon, depending on what you're working with, right? If you're working with 55, save a gallon of it, right? And all you have to do is just like sourdough, you just feed it more. You don't have to add any more culture in. Just keep that one little bit and feed it more. And then in 2 days from now, you go out, if you just got a 55-gallon barrel, you can do 11 trees every 2 days. That knocks out stuff really fast, right? And then you're saving money because you're not trying to make some big, fast culture that takes more starting stuff, right? Because if you can, if I give you the ounce of trichoderma and you can make that last till this December, once treating you could treat your garden, all your yard, all your trees. You just got to keep it going, because it's just like sourdough. If you stop, you got to start over.
You're treating your culture with the cane sugar?
Yes. Yeah, cane sugar or cane molasses.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, molasses is even better because it has lots of minerals in it. Yeah.
I know we've used molasses and flour before.
Yeah. Any other questions on how to mulch? Oh, we want to have an air stone, a good air pump, and you want it warm, 80 to 90 degrees. Okay, and then you feed your fungus. Whatever you're trying to fight, if you can collect that and feed it to the culture at the beginning, you're going to have your absolute best results. What we did earlier is we went and pulled some bark off and took a knife and just shoved the bark beetles down into the bucket, and then I loaded it up and started it brewing. So
what did you put together? Because I didn't watch you. So what did?
Okay, so
formula, as it were.
Yeah. So basically, it's just a series of foods for the fungus to get them to multiply as fast as possible, but then also to aim their metabolism at what we're trying to do. So if we're trying to fight an insect with a chitin shell, then if we can get that exact insect in there, it's perfect. But any insect works too. You can buy insect frass on Amazon. If you don't want to go collect insects.
The bug is a starter.
Yes, you're directing them what to feed on. And then I also put some fish hydrosolate in there, which is your fish fertilizer, the gallon, the liquid stuff. Yes, the liquid emulsion, and that gives them amino acids to work with, so because they require protein as well to reproduce. And then I put a little bit of molasses without going too heavy, because I don't want them to get sugar crazy. I want them to go after these other things, right? And so then I put, because I only got a small handful of the bark beetles, but that's all I need. I just need some of them. Then I put another cup of insect frass in there, which is just ground up insect bodies, random insects, And so that steers it towards going after insects, and particularly that engraver that we dropped in the bucket.
And then you used hot water.
I used hot water. Don't go crazy hot. Don't put it in over 100, but anywhere between, don't go over 110. Anywhere between 80 and 110 is good. The warmer you get going, the faster they're going to multiply. Our water out there was probably close to 100. They're going to be going fast. And you can get on Amazon if you don't have a place like in your garage or something that stays somewhat warm to culture this stuff. You can get 55-gallon drum wrap heaters, and also in 5-gallon size. I have the 5-gallon one. They're for honey, and it's got a thermostat and all that. I just set the thermostat at 100.
With something?
Yes, an air stone. An air stone. You want a lot of air going through it. Minus the air, yeah. Take the air out. There you go. Yeah. Okay, any other questions on culturing it? So your food is the food of choice. Make sure there's a sugar source without being excessive. And then make sure you have a target in there and some protein. And so the fish hydrosolate covers the protein easy, and I usually have that around.
And this stuff's all in your videos?
I haven't done a presentation on the beetles yet. I've done a lot of other presentations. Some of them are on my YouTube and some aren't because they never made it to theirs. I don't have the original copies, so I didn't end up getting them on there. But this will be on YouTube. You just refer right back to it. And there will be a YouTube link on my website if you go there.
So if we order from Arbigo, we get these fungi in. Is there something there when we get it in that tells us how to get started? Or are we going to be saying, Heber, we've got
No, what it tells you on the package, in fact, is to put it directly into water and put it directly on your plants because they want to make all the money off those spores.
Pre-orders.
Right? Yeah. So there's not a fungus or bacteria you can't culture. You just need the starter. So some are different. Like some you want to do anoxic or anaerobic, And I'll show you those. Those are more bacterial.
Are you spraying it on? Do you need a sprayer or?
About one.
About one.
That one, yep. Okay, any other questions, or do we want to go out and check out the inoculation? And
Chad just got one more question.
She's got
yeah,
one.
yep.
So when we're spraying this fungus, is there anything that we personally, do we need to wear a mask?
Are
Is it
you
okay?
severely immunocompromised?
No.
You're
Okay.
fine. There's only been one case ever of anybody that's ever gotten sick from any of these three. There was one person, and it was the Bovaria bassiana, but they were on their deathbed already.
Okay.
So, they even the report says, yeah, we don't really think it did it, but it was present. So, but no, if you're not severely immunocompromised, they're all beneficial to us too. These are all in and on us, and I'll show you how in and on us they are because I'm going to drink some of it out there. I'll show you. It's that safe.
Watch you not die.
Actually, this made me really healthy.
So before we go down, we're gonna follow you and go down.
Yeah, we'll go get that
There's
inoculation.
hot water, there's popcorn, and there's water. And
Yeah, if you guys all want
You
to,
guys
why
wanna
don't we
get
break for
something
10
before we go
minutes?
down?
Everybody
There's a
get drinks
bathroom over
and
here.
all that, and then we'll head out and start looking at the inoculation and go put it on some stuff.
Oh, and there's stuff